folks, there's another meeting or two tonight. I know some folks want to get to. So welcome everybody. I did want to check and see if there were any questions about the agenda before we dove in. Okay, then let's go right in. The first two things that we have, and it's a little bit different this, the last meeting, we first talked about sort of where everything was, but we're combining that with discussions about next steps. So the first thing we have is transportation, looking to finalize the endorsement of the task force of that chapter, and then economic development. So transportation, Mr. Mooney, why don't you take it away and let us know if there's anything you need on our side in terms of putting things on the screen or that sort of thing.
Okay. If Lisa, are you there?
Yes, sir.
If you could put the key task force decisions needed sheet up.
Okay, just give me a moment.
So while you're putting it up, so the collaborative goal of the Fairfax County DOT contact team and the Transportation Drafting Committee, which is Gary Maupin, Bill Penniman, and myself, was to come up with a single document, not two competing ones, and to have the closest consensus text we could agree on, noting any significant disagreements in marginal comments. And we came very, very close to that ideal. So what we have here are 12 questions. And these are 12 questions dealing not primarily with disagreements with Fairfax County DOT, which are few, as I said. But can you make it a little bigger, Lisa? But also other issues that have come up during our initial community outreach in conversations with the Reston Association Multimodal Transportation Committee, comments from the Sierra Club, and so forth, which we've incorporated. These are things that we have suggested, or there's a question whether we should have them in the text. And I do not think we need or want long conversation of these. I think some of them we can handle very quickly. So I will, with your permission, I will start going through the 12. So Lisa, can you make it still a bit bigger? Okay, move down a bit now. There we go. Okay, so the first question, and the numbers in parenthesis before tell you where you can locate the issue on the clean copy and on the red line version. Okay.
Yes.
So the first question is, Fairfax County staff had put in a target of LOSE or better back into the text for the TSA areas, and they've added an LOSD level as the target for non-TSA areas. So basically, let me back up. So what happened was, after we did our final version, remember when we had our consolidated interim version that we put on the website, then we got detailed feedback from Fairfax County DOT, and in fact what they did was not comment on our text, but actually rewrite it with their positions in it. So what we did, the Transportation Drafting Committee, we put the task force's positions back into the text, but we also came to agree on certain language that really reduced the number of real differences. But number one is a real difference. So Fairfax County DOT put LOSE and back into the text for TSAs. They said, we propose a target of LOSD for non-TSAs, which is something new, honoring the vote of the task force majority. We then removed both of them again. And so the text that you have before you, both in the clean version and the red line version, have removed LOSE and LOSD. Is there any interest in changing back to what the VDOT Fairfax County DOT people want to do?
This is David. Absolutely, we need to put this back in the way FC.dot and for that matter, VDOT would more or less insist that it. We've been told several times that FC.dot and the staff need the TSA level E, LOS E, to give them more flexibility. And we're kind of swimming upstream here when we're saying, and the reasoning is that this task force wants to change it or eliminate it is because, oh, level E is horrible. Well, of course, level E is horrible, but that's certainly no reason to delete it.
Okay,
Especially
David,
if it serves a purpose.
if I may interrupt, if we all give reasons for our opinions on this, we'll never get done. Okay, so if we can just say, you've indicated that you would like to put LOSE and possibly LOSD back. Should we let's just vote on it? Do we have the ability to?
Wait a minute.
But John, I think David did give some rationale there. And I think we had a long discussion on this before and decided to take this out for not only the reason David mentioned, but a host of other ones, or not a host, but a few other ones. So I don't know if you want me to describe those, but before we vote, we just need to make sure that we're.
Yeah, but if each of us start giving
Well, I hear you, John, but
yeah.
But I talked a good bit about this before, one-on-ones anyway. And before, do we need to set the stage a little bit with David saying, what he said with me?
Okay, why don't you give a response? But I would say we're doomed if we start giving explanations.
I completely
We've discussed
agree.
these many times. As many of you know, I supported having LOSE and LOSD, but I was on the losing side. So go ahead, Gary, and give a brief, please, very brief.
I'm with you 100%, John. Save me. I'll just say, obviously, what David said is the reasons, but there are other ones, the measurement. How are we certain of these measurements? We talked about that. John Carter talked about it a good bit. In addition to that, it's not in lots of other comp plans. Having this in the comp plan, I don't know the county can operate without it. I think they can. And it's just a device that's likely to be changed. Many others are going to newer, modes of this kind of calculation. So I'll
Okay,
shorten it up and leave it at that.
okay, thank you.
I have a clarifying question.
Yes,
It's not a statement. I just want to make sure that if we do adopt this language to put it back in, I just want to make sure that the LOS or better is part of the language, because I don't see this within quotes. So I just want to make sure that we are not setting the expectation that we're going towards an LOS of E or an LOS of D in the non-TSA areas, because I mean, it's already bad. And so I just want to make sure that that language or better is added to whatever that LOS is. Thank you.
so the language of the Fairfax County DOT proposed is for areas of Reston, let's see. For areas, so for areas outside of the TSAs, at a minimum, an overall intersection level of service D should be provided. And then
It should
skipping
be at a
down,
maximum.
pardon me? It
Shouldn't
says,
that be at a maximum?
no, a minimum. So,
Okay.
so a minimum, so that means that you try to get a grade better than D, which it means a C or a B or an A.
Okay. Okay, thank you
And
for the
then- and then
clarification.
they say for areas of Reston within the TSAs, an overall intersection level of E or better is the goal. That's their language. But,
Okay, thank you, John.
um,
Say, John, John Carter, I don't want to prolong this, and I'm not going to express an opinion. What happens whether it's in or out? What does DOT use? Because like the level of service D, is that for the Hunter Mill district? Is it just for Reston? I've never understood exactly how these level of service are actually set. Is this done by the Board of Supervisors annually? Is it done inside comp plans or outside comp plans? And if you don't put it in, what are the ramifications? For instance, if we didn't put it in, what would DOT use?
so, they would not have a norm. So the LOSE comes from a memorandum of understanding between Fairfax County DOT and VDOT, that in all of their transit station areas, they would have a target area of LOSE or better, and that this would be put into the comprehensive plan. So that was based on a memorandum of understanding, and I have it somewhere here in my file, but anyway,
What would happen if we didn't put it in the Reston version of the comprehensive plan? Nothing, or?
no,
I'm not sure.
so it was in the 2014-15 plan.
Mhm.
The county staff said they would go forward without having it in the plan and implement whatever they had to implement per agreements.
Yeah, what they have is the MOU. John King or Mike Garcia, if you're here, can you give an answer to that?
Now, that would be good. And then the same thing for level of service D. What happens if it's not in this plan?
Hi, this is John King, Transportation Planner with Fairfax County DOT. So we actually have a countywide policy pertaining to level of service. Our countywide policy is level of service D, and level of service is used as part of the VDOT traffic analysis, impact analysis process to assess impacts of development, things like that. So countywide, we have a level of service D. The exception in Reston is that level of service E, and we worked with VDOT to get that in the plan, as John mentioned, the 2014 update. Basically, the intent there was to allow a more urban environment to be developed, promote pedestrian, more pedestrian activity, things like that. So that's why we, encourage having the level of service E. It gives us more flexibility because you're not trying to meet that higher standard for vehicular delay.
So does that mean it doesn't matter whether you put it in the LOSD in the since that's countywide, it doesn't matter whether it's in? And then for the level of service, what if it's not in? What are the ramifications? Do you still use E anyway, whether it's in or out? Or that's what I'm after.
Okay. Well, I think if we don't have a comprehensive plan guidance that says use level of service E, I think we would use the countywide standard level of service D. That's my interpretation. We haven't really had to talk that through with VDOT yet. We do, like John mentioned, we do have an agreement with them, but that's based on the comprehensive plan guidance.
Okay. So level of service D doesn't matter for the but level of service E might matter. That's where you're going.
Yeah, I think level, right, that's level of service D is a countywide policy. So maybe that's just for clarification purposes to delineate.
And that's a minimum.
TSA.
John, that's a minimum of D, right? For non-TSA areas.
Right, yeah.
And then to follow up on that question, suppose you get to level of service F, what happens? An application comes in and you've got level of service F. What happens if it says targets, and I don't know if you mean targets or whether you really mean, does that mean you turn it down?
We certainly could, yeah. If we don't have a way to mitigate the traffic, that could be a response.
Okay.
I'd also like to point out, this is Mike Garcia, that we use it as kind of one of many tools to help us make a decision. There are intersections where there's going to be trouble in terms of in interim years trying to getting to a level of service E, but if we have the goal in there, then we know what we're trying to strive for. If we're able to implement links of the grid, wider sidewalks, bicycle facilities, that will, and then we get more of the development over time that helps build up the network, which allows for the level of service E to be attained over time. So there will be some instances where we have a little bit of, I guess, issues in terms of kind of achieving it, but it's not, but the goal is to try to get us there. So, and I just want to make sure that point is made clear.
Okay.
John Carter, the current plan has a whole list of what happens if it can't meet whatever level of service it's supposed to meet. There's a whole list of things that the county or the state, for that matter, will do or will try to do to improve the quality of the service evaluation. But it's not just there is a set of guidance for that.
Right. It's kind of the steps, the steps that VDOT and Fairfax County DOT agreed they would go through if a development is not compliant with that LOSE. And there are a series of steps which are balancing pedestrian and bicycle and other interests with those of motor vehicles. So let's Lisa, can you conduct a vote on this?
Yeah, why don't we do that? I'll go ahead and call for hands, and then Lisa, or actually, I guess I could count as well.
Yeah, if you, it's when I'm sharing the document, I can't see everybody's hands.
So I can see the hands, and I would just ask for task force members only to vote. But I see everybody's hand is down. So John, how do you want to call the yays?
I would say let us give this is supposed to be the task force document. The task force document had eliminated it. So let's first hear those who would like to eliminate LOSE and LOSD.
So if you want to eliminate references to LOSE and D in the task force recommendation, raise your electronic hand, right?
May I ask a quick clarifying
Sure.
question again?
Please.
So if we remove the LOSE and LOSD from the comprehensive plan task force, then the county DOT reverts back to the county standard of D, correct?
That may be the case, Lynn. The concern I have is there is an MOU between Fairfax County DOT and VDOT
Virginia, got it.
that we will enforce that at least a level of LOSE in the TSAs.
Okay.
So I don't know how that would be resolved unless Mike or John can give us a definitive answer.
I think we try to go with what we have in terms of the comprehensive plan, but we do have that MOU, which would have to be reworked and relooked at with VDOT. So I would say that if we're going to do that, let's just, not something DOT is not recommending it. So not only that, but if you go to a higher level of service, you get wider roads, more turn lanes, it's harder to walk. So just for everyone's understanding that we're trying to balance the modes when we try to talk about a little bit of a level of service E.
Mike, more grid segments as well.
Absolutely. Yes, more grid segments.
Hey, John, I think the other thing is, this is Chris Daniel, that the staff and the board of supervisors could choose to ignore the task force recommendation and go with the staff recommendation. Is the other thing. I mean, what we're voting on is the task force will, correct? Whether or not we want to see it out or not.
It seems to me, in deference to the task force, the task force, the majority of the task force has voted to remove references to LOS.
Mhm.
And so therefore, that's why I'm giving I'm giving the first vote for reaffirming the task force vote, which is to remove references to LOS.
Okay, so John, do you want to call again for a vote and I'll count?
Please. So all those in favor of removing references to LOS in the document, please signify by saying aye.
Or you want to raise their hand?
Raise your hand. Yep.
Yeah, raise your hand electronically. Okay, everyone, raise your hand if you want to see LOS E or D removed from the task force recommendation. Okay, I'll go ahead and do like Jose and count down. Okay, everyone raise 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I counted 9. Anybody
9.
else count
Okay.
anything else? Okay.
So now if those who would like to restore references to LOS, whether E or D, to the comprehensive plan, please raise your hand now. And as is my requirement under Reston Association's way of proceeding, I will abstain.
Jeez. Okay. So everyone who wants to put LOS E and D back into the comp plan or keep it there, raise your hand electronically, please. And I'll count down. Everyone, please raise it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And that is 4.
Okay, and any other abstentions beside myself? So those who are abstaining, please, everybody put your hand down. Anyone abstaining, please put your hand up.
Okay, looking for abstentions. Any abstentions on this? Please put your hand up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I see 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you all.
So yeah, so 9 voted in favor, removing, 4 against, putting it in, and then 1 abstention.
Please accept my apologies for being late. It was a long cat vet visit, much longer than I had scheduled.
So can I just confirm, so we had 9 that were in favor of removing the LOS and 4 in favor of putting it back
Restoring.
in, and
Yes.
then 1 abstention? Thank you.
Correct. Okay.
Can we add, I'm sorry, I was a minute late, but may I add mine also in favor? Or sorry, in favor of removing?
Okay, so that would,
Okay.
if there are no objections.
No objections.
10 in favor of removing.
Okay. Okay, number 2. Fairfax
John,
County
just
DOT.
John, just a second.
Yes.
Walter, there's a note from Kripa in the chat about what are the implications of not having those LOS standards, and she apparently didn't hear the county person say why. John King, I think it was, or Mike, I'm not sure. It might be worth, before we move on to number 2, at least clarifying for her what the problems will pose for pedestrians.
This is Mike. I'll just do it quickly. So the issue with removal and going to a level of service D is that it forces us to go to a higher standard, or recommends such that go to a higher standard. And to do that, roads generally get wider, we put more travel lanes in, we put more turn lanes in, right and left turn lanes. It's just longer for pedestrians and bicyclists to cross intersections. So when we have limited right of way, we have competing needs. So we don't necessarily get the high quality pedestrian and bicycle facilities that we're looking for, given that we only have so much space to work within. So going to that level of service also, it may lessen the amount of grid links we could do, which places more emphasis on less intersections and forces a little bit more delay. And in order to deal with that delay, we end up widening the intersection. So in essence, it doesn't necessarily allow us to kind of create a little bit more compact, walkable, bikeable type grid that is supportive of transit and the density within the TSA that we think is appropriate.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes.
Okay, number 2.
Number 2, so Fairfax County has agreed to slightly stronger language on the proposed grade separated intersection at Fairfax County Parkway and Sunrise Valley Drive. So it now would read: a grade separated interchange is planned at Sunrise Valley Drive to improve traffic operations within the immediate vicinity and for Reston as a whole. At all key, and here's an add, at all key points, not just before a final decision, but at all key points during the development of plans for the interchange, the county will engage with the surrounding community in a review of alternatives. Any improvements should be developed in a manner, and this is a new sentence, any improvements shall be developed in a manner that is context sensitive and considerate of nearby residential areas.
Lisa, yeah, thank you. Can you please, yeah.
Okay. Any questions about this?
No, it looks good to me.
Okay. Can we hold a vote real quickly? So all those in favor of the new language, please raise your hands.
Electronically.
Let's clear all hands. All hands have been cleared. Now, if you're for this new version, please raise your hands electronically.
Right, everyone in favor of this language, please raise your hand and I'll count down and start counting votes in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 10 in favor.
Okay. Those opposed to this language, let's clear hands. Everybody clear their hands. Okay. And those not in favor of this language, please raise your hands.
Okay, everyone opposed to this language, not in favor, please vote in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see none opposed.
Okay. And there's at least one abstention.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll count you as one abstention there, John.
Okay.
Are there other abstentions?
Oh, are there other abstentions? Good question. Anyone wanting?
Let's
Yep.
clear hands. Are there any other abstentions besides me?
Abstentions, go ahead and raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see 2 abstentions.
Okay. Besides me?
No, just with you.
Okay. All right. Number 3, a non-Fairfax County DOT reviewer whom I can't find in my notes who it was, but suggested this language concerning Reston Parkway within the TSAs. This would be a new addition that is not in the task force version. Traffic should be moderated to welcome and encourage walking and biking to and from the many dwellings and attractions in the area. I will tell you that part of the background for this may have been a study that was done by Lisa Leary in 2021 for MTAC, in which she studied 97 crashes between motor vehicles and either pedestrians or bicycles. There were 30, so there were 97 that had some visible injury. Of those 36 had either fatality or serious injury. And the main cluster of accidents, especially serious accidents, were on Reston Parkway and at the intersection of Wheelie and Sunset Hills. So it may have been that, the reviewer may have been aware of that. So the question is, do we want to add this as a bullet on what we want to happen on Reston Parkway within the TSAs? So in the clean version of the new draft, that would be page 6. Any questions about the proposal or my explanation of it?
So I do have a question about this. Sorry, did somebody else, because I've been asking a lot of questions, so
Oh, yeah, it was me, Moira. It was Moira's one.
I'll defer to you, Moira.
Oh, I was just gonna, I don't, unfortunately, I'm on my tiny little telephone, but I don't know what section this is. What does it mean by moderated? What's that entail?
I think it was left deliberately broad to mean either built features or enforcement. That's all I can say, Moira.
So my question, I'm sorry, Moira, did you have a follow-on question?
No, I feel like that's so vague, but okay.
Yeah. So, I guess my question is, if we are expecting Reston to be a destination for folks coming in from outside of from Leesburg and other points outside of Reston, then how are they going to get to town center, and how do they get to Reston if they're not coming in through Reston Parkway? Because that is a competing goal. If you want to moderate traffic, but you need to accommodate at the same time, if we're expecting visitors.
Okay. My hunch is that moderation in this instance did not mean reduction, but rather moderation in speed or in behavior, vehicular behavior. But I don't know that for sure, Lynn.
Okay, thank you.
Let me go add to, well, I'm sorry, John. I just put my hand up. I apologize.
Go ahead, Gary.
No, I think one of the things we did talk about is exactly what Lynn talked about. We want Reston to be a place that people come to, do business and not be afraid to be shied away by restrictions like reduction of the speed limits, et cetera, that harm getting to the central part of Reston. And while I didn't, object, John, you knew I had a concern about this one. I have exactly the same concern Lynn does. And just think it's probably going a little too much when you're thinking about what we're trying to do here. Taking into account Bill Penniman's concern about the people driving through. It's hard to control that. And we just don't want to go too far here.
Okay.
John, could I speak? This is Bill.
Sure, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of this TSA exercise is to make things walkable, safe, and appealing to the people who live there. Moderation is usually not a bad idea. And all this does is encourage moderation to make it a more livable, walkable community. There have been, in the last task force, we saw reports, studies of places where they did moderate the traffic in various ways, and the result was a booming business because people were much more attracted to a place where they could comfortably, safely walk. So I think this is a good idea. I didn't write it. I don't know who wrote it, but I think it's a sensible suggestion. Thank you.
It's Moira yet again. I had another thought. Couldn't you just flip that around to make it, instead of saying traffic should be moderated, maybe you could talk about infrastructure being developed to encourage walking, like walkways under and overpasses, things like that, and approach it from a different angle other than traffic.
That's already,
You know what I mean?
those points are already made for this area here, Moira.
Okay, well then if that's the, yeah, I just don't have the section that I'm looking at, unfortunately, but if that's the case, then it's already been enhanced.
Okay.
And this seems like it might not be necessary, but add vague language. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm afraid it would entail traffic, speed humps or something. This is, to me, I agree with it. It's just too vague the way this is phrased.
Okay. Okay. Can we proceed then with the vote? So if we clear all hands.
All right, I think everybody's cleared. John, do you want to, well?
Moira has not cleared. There we go. Moira, would you clear your hand? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So those in favor of adding number 3, please raise your hand.
Everyone in favor of adding the language in 3, raise their hand. I'll count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see 5 in favor.
Okay. So let's lower all hands.
Actually 6. I'm sorry. 6.
Okay.
6 in favor.
Lower all hands, please. And now those who oppose number 3, please raise your hand.
Okay, everyone opposed to the language in number 3, raise your hand. I'll count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Seven opposed.
Okay. And lower your hands, please. Electronically lower your hands. Those abstaining.
All abstentions on this language. Countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you. Number 4 is also an ad from a non-Fairfax County DOT reviewer recommending that we save concerning Barron Cameron Avenue should not be improved for purposes of increased vehicular capacity. So I think that means should not be widened, is how I interpret that. Or the number of lanes increased, one or both of those things.
It's very vague.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. If that's what we think it to mean, we should add that language to make it clear.
Yeah, which we don't have time for, so.
John, is that already in the plan? We have that table that lists streets that are being expanded and actually in the plan already.
Let's see.
I'm just trying to move this along.
Yep, no, I understand. So what it says under Barron Cameron is there's silence on that question, John.
But it's not planned for.
It is not planned for changes.
Yeah. So this might be duplicative.
Superfluous?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's clear hands. those in favor of number 4, please raise your hand.
All in favor of inserting the language in number 4? I'll count down. Please put your hands up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see 2 hands.
Okay. Please lower your hands. And those opposed to number 4, please raise your hands.
Okay, those opposed to the language, put your hands up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see 10 opposed.
Okay. Please lower your hands, and those abstaining on this matter, please raise your hand.
Abstentions raise in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see, I believe 3. Although, David, did you vote twice?
Yes.
I think David had his hand up for the pro, for the con, and the abstention.
I'm with David.
I'm sorry, I was writing a note and I forgot to take my hand down. I was definitely in favor of including that language.
Okay. All right. So with that, we'll go with 2 in favor, 9 opposed, and 2 abstentions.
Okay, thank you.
After accounting for.
Okay. So number 6 is very similar.
How about
to
number 5?
I'm sorry, I meant number 5. Number 5 is very similar to number 3, except it's applied to Wheelie Avenue outside the TSAs, and it would say appropriate speed management should be employed to ensure safety for all travelers, especially pedestrians.
So is this like speed cameras? I mean, what, I don't know what this is.
Again, I think this I think this came from Scott Leary of MTAC, and what he said is you could do physical changes or you could do enforcement or a combination of them. And the concern is the undulations in Wheelie Avenue outside the TSAs, especially north of Sunset Hills, and the curves make it dangerous. And so some sort of appropriate speed management, which he deliberately left unspecified, whether built or enforcement measures.
So I think if there's being reference made to the number of fatalities at Wheelie and Sunset Hills, I think that will be alleviated by the bridge that is going to take the W&OD trail over Wheelie Avenue, thereby sparing all of these athletes' lives that are using the W&OD trail and pedestrians.
And I think actually the problem is more with Wheelie and Barron Cameron.
That
it's outside the TSA. That would be within the TSA.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But again, I think it's, well, let me raise my hand, I'm sorry.
Okay. Could we take a vote? So let's clear hands. Those in favor of number 5, please raise your hands.
All in favor of the language in 5, please raise your hands in this with this countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 4 hands up, 4 in favor.
Okay, please lower your hands, everybody. Oops. Those opposed to number 5, please raise your hands at this time.
Okay, all opposed, please put your hands up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I count 9 opposed.
Okay. Please lower your hands, and those abstaining, please raise your hands.
All right. Abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I count 2 abstentions.
2. Okay, thank you very much. And for those who don't know, I am abstaining because I am the representative of Reston Association, and Reston Association had said that only the association board as a whole, not the representative, will vote on these matters. That's why I'm abstaining. I believe I got a question from one of our one of our guests asking why I was abstaining. So. Okay, thank you. Number 6, very similar to number 4. Sunrise Valley Drive should not be improved for the purpose of increased vehicular capacity. Is that clear enough, or is an explanation desired? Again, I think it is either additional lanes or widening that would allow for additional vehicular capacity.
So John, just for clarification, I'm a bit confused. So we're saying that the existing street and the existing grid system should not be improved, but instead we're going to put in a new grid of streets that, I mean, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this properly.
Yeah, I think it's not about the overall grid of streets, Lynn. I think it's specifically, I know it is specifically about Sunrise Valley Drive itself, which many want to keep it more neighborhood friendly, especially for those trying to cross Sunrise Valley Drive, and so don't want either more lanes squeeze into the same space or a widening of the right of way to allow more lanes. Does that make sense?
Well, no, it doesn't, because we've got Hallie Rise coming on board, and I mean that's right off of Sunrise Valley. I mean, I just, from a traffic perspective, I don't understand how you cannot improve Sunrise Valley Drive to promote ingress and egress.
So you're
may I make a couple of statements?
Yep.
Okay. First,
Mark, your audio is breaking up badly, Mark.
I will have to come, if you'll check grid of streets, use of traffic circles. If you refer to Sunrise Valley specific.
Mark, we cannot hear you.
I will put it into chat.
Okay.
John, I have an issue with this. The way this is phrased should not be improved. Well, dude, we want the cycle track all around it. That is an improvement. So, you know, this is not clear what the improvement is.
Tammy, it's improvement for increased vehicular capacity.
Well, yeah, we went through this big, you weren't on the wheelie thing, but vehicular can refer to bikes as well, anything with wheels.
Right.
It's talking about
vehicular is a car.
This means motor vehicles.
This means motor vehicle. It's exactly the same as 4 on Barron Cameron. It's the same issue. It's not planned to be expanded. And that is really what this is talking about, you know, precluding expansion for vehicular.
So it's elsewhere in the plan. It's not planned to be expanded.
The plan has no changes.
Thank you.
Okay, but Tammy is absolutely right that state law specifically says that if they are on a road being used for travel on a roadway, bicycles are also called vehicles. She's correct on that. But this means, Tammy, motor vehicles here.
Right, right.
Okay.
I think it should
Let's.
say that. I do.
I beg your pardon, Jan?
I think it should say motor vehicles. If that's referring to motor vehicles, it should say that so people aren't confused about what does it mean and what does it
Okay.
refer to.
So for purposes of voting, we will add the word motor to vehicular capacity, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Are we prepared to vote? So let's clear all hands. Okay, those in favor of number 6, please say, please raise your electronic hands. So if you want to prohibit any increased motor vehicular capacity.
Okay, all those raise your hands in favor. Let's count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see 4 in favor.
Okay. Let's lower all hands. Those who are opposed to number 6, that is, they are opposed to a prohibition of increased motor vehicular capacity, please raise your hands.
Yeah,
All right, all opposed to this
John,
language?
wait a second.
Let's
Something's happening.
everybody
Somebody's got their
lower,
hand-
let's all lower hands again first. Let's clear the deck here.
I can't hit mine. Somebody's in front
Okay.
of it with a note or
Okay,
something.
so there should be no hands up at this point. So everyone opposed to number 6, that is opposed to the prohibition of any increased motor vehicular capacity on Sunrise Valley Drive, please raise your hand at this point. Gary, your hand is up, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I just couldn't raise it a minute ago. Somebody was at a chat or something, or if I couldn't get to it.
All opposed to the language in 6, please raise your hand, counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Hold on.
I counted 11 opposed.
Okay. And please lower your hands. And those who are abstaining, please put your electronic hand up.
Okay, abstentions, put your electronic hand up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I see 1 abstention.
Okay. Number 7, we've seen before. So Fairfax County DOT has agreed to the wording at this point if we make 2 changes. So currently it says a traffic signal will be installed. They say should be installed at the eastern intersection of Sunrise Valley Drive and Upper Lake Drive and other locations as needed to facilitate trips out of the neighborhoods, provided such signals meet VDOT warrants, and they want to add and can be maintained. So VDOT has to make sure that they can maintain them also. So they would like to make those changes to the language which we have, which is basically the language approved by the task force is the language without the red words, current red words. Is that clear? So the current task force, okay, current task force language as traffic signal will be installed, and it does not have the proviso that the signal can be maintained.
Thank you.
Why could it not be maintained? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
John King, do you want to answer that, please?
Hi, sure. It's just a cost associated with it. I think, anytime you have a capital improvement, it's one thing to put the signal in, but then you also have to maintain it over time and have resources to do that, and also uh, pro signal timing, putting the signal timing in, things like that. So there's resources involved in these types of improvements. Just make sure you want to account for that when you do that.
So what you're saying is VDOT would have to agree to those ongoing costs.
Right, I think we'd have to talk to the state about that and make sure we had a plan for not only installing, but also maintaining it.
Wow. There's a price on safety.
Does this, I'm sorry, is this adding, this is already provided for in a proffer?
Then there's no problem. If the maintenance costs are provided in the proffer, then that last clause is not a problem.
And Bill Penniman talked about this. Bill, you mentioned, I thought, the proffer when we were talking about this in our conversations. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's already approved in a proffer. And does it have that it can be maintained? No, but that probably should have been brought up when the development plan was approved with proffer language in it
Right.
from the county staff.
Yeah, we shouldn't be adding that language at this point now. And I mean, it's not in anywhere else within.
I think a question that arises is we've been told that if it's not in a plan, the county can't do much to prepare for it. Maybe that rule doesn't apply to a stoplight, but that would be a reason to put it in the plan, even if it's also in a proffer.
Well, I think what Jennifer said is that the maintenance is not in the proffer.
No. I'm not talking about the maintenance. I'm just talking about, somebody raised the question, why put this in the plan at all if it's also written in proffer? So I just mentioned one possible reason, and also puts people on notice. That's all.
Right. And there was a strong vote on the part of the committee to include that, of the task force to include that.
Yeah, it seems the additional language is unnecessary at this point.
So,
I mean, a lot of things depend on money, right, Mike? I mean, if I pick out this
That's the case for everything, though.
That's what I said. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking to Mike Garcia.
So there are two word changes that were recommended by Fairfax County DOT. One was changing will to should because of the preference, the guidance that we've gotten from Barbara Byron on these, that we shouldn't use the word will but should, because will be killed by the county attorney. So that's one change. The other change is the addition of and can be maintained. So
I think Barbara Byron's language was, it is expected that. Yes, 100.
So can I this is Mike, I just want to clarify just something. The should actually doesn't come from DPD, but it comes from the county attorney, just for everyone's clarification. And if you all want to strike in can be maintained, that's fine. We're not going to harp on that. So
okay, good enough. We'll strike that. What is your preference on the should? You want to say it is expected that a traffic signal?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that what folks would like?
Yes.
Okay, let's alter that language. So we'll now read it. It is expected that a traffic signal will be
be installed.
Be installed. Yep, be installed. And then drop the final clause and can be maintained. So that is now what we're voting on. Okay. Those in favor of that amended language, let's clear all hands. Those in favor of that amended language.
Your
So
hand is up, John.
oops, sorry about that. Don't follow my own orders here. Okay, so it is expected that a traffic signal be installed, okay? And no final clause. Those in favor of that, please raise your hands.
Okay, all in favor of the updated language for 7? Raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, count 12 in favor.
Okay, please lower your hands. And anyone opposed to that language, please raise your hands.
Your hand is up, John.
I
John,
just, I keep screwing that up.
That's all right. Opposed, put your hand up, opposed in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No opposed.
Okay. And let's lower hands, those abstaining.
Okay, abstentions. Raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See, 3 abstentions.
Okay. Number 8. So this is the most complicated part. Fairfax County DOT made a number of changes in the 3 grids of streets, which they redrew and the figure that they redrew is in the current version. Okay. So this is not the task force recommendation, which is there, but that's simply the latest version we have. And so the changes included a restoration of the road to or from nowhere, but that is a proposal which they have since withdrawn, okay? Even though the grid has not been revised to reflect that. The second thing that has been put in is a new road connection from American Dreamway to North Shore. And then thirdly, a new road running eastward from Isaac Newton Square north and then south to the extension of Isaac Newton Square south. And Fairfax, on that third, Fairfax County DOT says they can over time, as redevelopment happens and other uses, current uses fall into disuse, they can build that road without intruding into Fairfax Lake Park. So, John King asked that Fairfax County DOT have a chance to explain why they advocate these changes in the grid of streets. John?
Can I just chime in though for a second, John?
Sure.
I thought, and I know Bill's about to explain this, but on C, in listening to Mike, that is only going, first of all, it's not going to go into Lake Fairfax Park, period. The map is just misdrawn on that part. Mike, correct me if I'm misquoting you. And then second, they will only build that third road if there is redevelopment, the C road. So those are 2 differences. And then, sorry, John, for getting in the way there.
No, that's a fine point, Gary. And I've asked John Carter to review all these proposed changes, and in my my memo to y'all, I asked those who have intimate knowledge of grid of streets in their own areas, like Mark Malcolm knows so much about the grid of streets in the Herndon TSA. I asked you all to scrutinize it. I don't know that we're ready to approve this tonight, frankly, but we can make
I would like to, John, I would like to get rid of number 1 and number 2. I mean, we've already gone through number 1 ad nauseum for years.
Number 1 is gotten rid of. It's gone.
Okay.
It's
okay,
gone.
Thank you. So, so B, sorry, not number 2, but B, the road connection between American Dreamway and North Shore Drive. American Dreamway is a private road. We've just gone through this with the Fannie Mae application. That is a pedestrian, not vehicular connection. That is pedestrian only. So I want to make sure that we are not talking about connecting Sunset Hills Road to North Shore Drive using American Dreamway. There will be much angst and community uproar if this goes forward. Thank you.
Yep. And Lynn, I share that. And when I said we can't decide this, there are so many additional streets drawn in yellow that I don't know that we are in a position to answer all of them tonight. Okay. We can vote. So the road to nowhere is gone. We can vote tonight on the task force's position on the proposed connection between American Dreamway and North Shore. We can do that. And we could vote on the new road running eastward, number C. Gary, go ahead.
I'm in Lynn's court here that we should be able to get through this. I don't know that, having gone through what John has done, I mean, John can, say what the answer is here, but I think we substantially can agree overall after we go through these, that we can basically agree on the grid of streets. And if there's some minor thing, redrawing because of, an accidental thing, that's why come back for that. John Carter and you and the county can work that out. So
yeah, I am not competent. I certainly agree that we get rid of the road to nowhere, that we get rid of the connection. I personally, that we get rid of the new connection between American Dreamway and North Shore, and that we make sure that if C happens at all, it absolutely does not intrude upon Lake Fairfax Park. But Gary, what I'm saying is there are so many new connections drawn by Fairfax County DOT in yellow. I am not competent to judge those. That's my concern about saying, that we can finish everything.
I think you cover that in the next paragraph.
Right.
And that may be the case. Mark Malcolm, can I be heard this time?
Yes, you can.
Good on that. There's one thing with the traffic grid of streets that really needs to be considered is maximizing the use of traffic circles in these new areas, because that will facilitate not just vehicular, but also pedestrian and cycle traffic. It works. It works extremely well in a lot of other communities, whether it be Richmond, Virginia, and where I've been the last weekend with Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and Iredell counties, where yes.
Mark, you're breaking up again. Sorry. But while Mark is breaking up, I'm going to put a note out there to everyone that I agree with Mark and that traffic circles do work. And in fact, it could have worked at the intersection of Temporary Road and North Shore Drive. But no, there was a proffer and they put in a new traffic signal that is completely not needed.
I appreciate that the traffic signal is there, but a traffic circle.
I agree with you, Mark.
Okay. So before we vote, I promised Fairfax County DOT that they could make some comments about this. So John or Mike, which of you wants to address this?
Mike and I will address it together. I could just say really quickly about the golf course road. We did look at it again and understand the community's concerns. So I don't think we need to belabor the point on that one. Just again that it was intended to help support the overall connectivity within the area. I won't belabor that.
I think the only thing
Okay.
to add on to that is just to make sure that when the road comes off per the community and supervisors comments is that, that traffic will move on to just Sunset Hills and then maybe into Barron Cameron and North Shore, just to understand that it will have a ripple effect and is potentially move on to other links of the grid as well. So we just want to make sure that point is understood. We're not going to debate it anymore. We're just going to move forward. The other part I wanted to make sure they would address real quick was the North Shore to American Dreamway connection. The way we saw it is there's two parts of American Dreamway. There's one running north-south and there's another part running east-west. It was not our intention to have the north-south component stay within the grid, but keep the east-west component because that's where the new residential piece was coming online, at least proposed to come online, and to have the North Shore connection hook into there so that only that piece would actually be public and it would connect from North Shore using American Dreamway to Old Reston Avenue. And it was meant to kind of help provide another point of ingress egress to the communities in North Shore to getting over to Reston Town Center area. So
Is that going to go through Ivy Oak cluster? I mean, I don't understand how
it's that one
connection's
small
gonna be
connection
made.
is all we were proposing where the sidewalk is now, to kind of make it a small 2-lane road with accompanying pedestrian and bicycle facilities. So I just wanted to at least explain it. I understand you all are going to make whatever vote you feel is best for yourselves tonight. The other part is just to say Gary's correct. The link over on the northeast corner of Wheelie and Sunset Hills, close to Lake Fairfax, we're going to move that further away. It's going to be shown visually in the graphic a little bit further away, and it's only with redevelopment and not to have any sort of implications on Lake Fairfax. We did instead have kind of a shared use path that's shown in there. I think it might be appropriate for people to walk and bike to the park to be able to use it. And that's assuming that the park authority is comfortable with it too.
Okay.
I would like to comment on the American Dreamway North Shore link. The east-west is the very worst possible idea because that Fannie Mae property on that west side of it, west of the existing office, is going to become a very, very dense cluster. And that is the only egress and exit those people from that cluster are going to have. And you sure wouldn't want to put public traffic in on top of that. So that is absolutely the worst idea ever. And on the straight north-south, that the owners want that building to be secure, possibly. So you can't have public going through that either. So that's a no-go. Sorry. Have a property over there, understand the the traffic concerns, but American Dreamway is a private road, and those people who own it are not going to allow connection to it, just like they wouldn't allow Road from Nowhere to connect.
Understood, Ms. Patrine. Usually in dense clusters, we want more than one way in and out of a development for any sort of reasons, including fire and rescue. So thank you.
Okay. So let me try to structure our voting on the issue. So Fairfax County DOT has taken the road to or from nowhere off the list. So we will stricken that. So we need to vote on B, which is some connection between American Dreamway and North Shore. And then we need to, with Mike's explanation of how it would happen, John and Mike's explanations of how it would happen, we need to vote on C, which is the new road running, basically running eastward from Isaac Newton Square north and ending up down to the extension of Isaac Newton Square south. So so we can vote on those. So so Road to Nowhere is no longer on the table. Let's vote on those who, let's put it in this way. Who would oppose any connection between American Dreamway and North Shore? Whether it's north, south, east, west.
Your hand is up, John.
I'm sorry. Yep.
So is Gary's.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
this
who,
is opposing any connection.
yes, between American Dreamway and North Shore.
Thank you.
It's number,
John, I hate to say it, but is there a map that can be shown, or Google Maps or something, so we can actually look at the area that we're talking about?
We have it, Lisa.
I looked at my email, I couldn't find any attachments or
Okay, it's
anything.
for those who have the clean copy, it is found on page 9 of the clean copy.
I'll go look.
While Maura is looking for that, I will tell you that we just went through this with the Fannie Mae application and the neighbors that live adjacent to Fannie Mae and in the North Shore Drive area. And that was a very contentious discussion, and something that I believe was included in the application for Fannie Mae. I don't recall, John Carter, if that moved forward. Oh, there it is.
It wasn't included in the
It
application.
was not included. Yeah, it was defined as a pedestrian access, not vehicular.
Okay.
Thank you.
So those who oppose any new vehicular road connection between American Dreamway and North Shore, please raise your hand. Is that a fair shape of the question?
It can certainly be framed that way. So those opposing a new road connection between American Dreamway and North Shore, raise your hand electronically in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see 7 opposed.
Okay. Those who are open to a connection, so who do not absolutely oppose a new road connection between American Dreamway and North Shore, please raise your hand.
Hey, John, before we vote on that, is there a third option coming that's stronger than I could take it or leave it, or is take it or leave it the best we're going to do?
You have a suggestion, Mark?
We also have abstain for every vote we've done.
Yeah, I get that maybe that's the fourth option. I guess the question is, I think what you're hearing, at least on my takeaway, is that there's potential benefit to having that connection to the grid network. And so maybe the position ought to be something a bit stronger, which is exploring that or supporting analysis of a connection, as opposed to the less I could take it or leave it.
Okay, so rightly or wrongly, the way I shaped the first question was opposed to any new road connection between American Greenway and North Shore. So that was an absolute
Vehicular.
statement. Vehicular, right.
Yeah, this goes through people's backyards.
What was the first question? I thought we voted on that.
We did. So it's opposition to a new vehicular roadway connection between American Dreamway and North Shore. And 7 voted yes, they wanted that absolute vote against that.
Okay.
So Mark, in a way, so those who are not absolutely opposed to that may fit into the camp you're talking to, people willing to explore. Okay. Does that make sense?
Fair enough.
Okay. So those who are not absolutely opposed to a new vehicular road connection between American Dreamway and North Shore, whether it's exploring options or you like this proposal as is. So if you do not absolutely oppose a new vehicular road connection, please vote now. Raise your hand. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
All those in the willing to consider camp broadly, put your hand up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I see 7.
Okay. Please put your hands down.
Sorry, Walter, I saw
Everybody?
6.
Yeah, and recount the no's, because you got 6 and I got 9.
All right, let's recount the ones that we just voted on. So the willing to consider camp. Please put your hands up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I count 7 again.
Okay, can we do
Okay,
the,
sorry, my mistake.
No problem.
can we do the no's?
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
opposed,
yeses? Yeah, opposed to it, because what did you count, Walter? 6?
7 for both.
So we're tied? I
Yeah,
thought there
looks
were
like it.
9 on the first vote.
Okay, let's do it again.
Oh,
So those who are absolutely against any new vehicular road connection between American Way and North Shore, please raise your hand. Please, let's all first clear. Bruce, your hand is up. Okay. Everybody clear your hands. And now those who absolutely oppose any new vehicular road connection, please raise your hands.
Okay, the oppose the connection. Please raise your hands. 5, 4, 3, 2,
ooh.
1. I count 7 again. So we voted twice and both times 7.
All right.
Okay.
And
Okay.
to-
Please,
John,
please clear hands. Gary?
No, I was just gonna say, I don't know what to say about that, but the last time we did a vote against this. So I don't know if you want to throw that in.
We'll just wait for the public community outreach, and the community is going to speak.
So yeah, maybe there's an option there, option A, option B in the task force recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. Gary, would you clear your hand there? We're going to vote
sorry.
abstentions now.
Sorry.
Anybody abstaining?
All right, abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we've got 3 abstentions.
Okay. Question 9. So I think this is a very simple question. So basically, when Fairfax County DOT rewrote the chapter, they got rid of what frankly was some significant repetition in the version that I was responsible for doing the draft of. So they served as good editors of my text and reduced overlap and repetition. They also, I think, improved the tabular version of roadway improvements. So there's both a continuous text version where it reads in full sentences, and then they have this tabular version in the clean copy. It's pages 11 through 13. And it's very helpful because it summarizes to get for each road segment a lot of really good information not just how many lanes, but also recommendations on pedestrian and bicycle facilities, trails, and placemaking. And they also included, with John Carter's consent, we moved the specific placemaking recommendations he had at the end to this so that you could see them in the context of all the other things going on in these road segments. So what, John King and I especially have worked on this, and what we would like to propose, and this I think could be a really quick vote. This is not a substantive issue, but a stylistic issue. We want to keep both the continuous prose version of this, which precedes the table, and the table. Are you all okay with that? Can we agree with that by unanimous consent?
Does anyone have questions or concerns about doing that? All right, I hear none, John.
Okay.
Oh, I have. Is there a way you can show us what it looks like?
What page is that on, John?
It's on in the clean version. It's on pages 13. Well, actually, what we would want to. So.
I hate to tell you this, but I've been looking for the clean version, and I don't have anything that I can find unless you can tell me what day the email was sent.
It went out Saturday morning.
I will look.
So the continuous prose version of it's called Transportation Improvements, and that runs from pages 5 through pages 9. Okay. And then on page 11, that same information plus a lot more having to deal with bicycles, trails, sidewalks, and placemaking are found in the tabular version on pages 11 through 13. Okay. And
that's what we're approving.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a stylistic change. There's no substantive changes in transportation improvements. But are you guys comfortable with that? After discussing a lot, John King and I think it warrants having both of these together because some people like tabular versions, other people like continuous text versions, continuous prose versions. Is that okay?
I think that the staff has recommended that we denote at the bottom of charts that the text is what prevails if there is a discrepancy that isn't caught in other chapters. So I would suggest you do the same here.
Okay. John King and Mike Garcia, are you okay with that?
This is Mike. That's fine, but they're both going to be text, so they really need to make sure they're synced. This is, I mean, this is part of a little bit of the danger of having both, but we're willing to go with it as long as we can make sure that they kind of read together.
Yeah, I did the best I could by about 3 read-throughs to track each point, but I always beg for other eyes to look because I make mistakes. Even if I've read it 3 times. We thank you for that. Thank you for that advice, Jennifer, that you received from staff regarding other chapters, and we will make a comment to that effect some here, if that's okay with you, Mike and John.
But the issue is that they're both text. So if you have them if they read differently, you can read each one independently. What she's referring to is when you have text and a map, the text will govern over a map.
Ah.
Okay. Also, Penniman has a note in the chat. I have to go. However, the table in number 9 has several problems. I don't know what that means.
Okay, that's why we asked for other eyes. I will check with Bill on that. But in principle, y'all are okay with having both?
Yes.
Are you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Any objections? Okay, keep going, John.
Okay.
John, this is Mike Garcia. Real quick, there was another point you had about the grid of streets and the modification over by the Lake Fairfax. I don't know if you need a grid, as long as you can ask the task force if they're generally okay with the new approach, and if there's any if there's no opposition, then we'll just consider that a consensus and move forward.
Yes, you're right.
Number
You're right. We
C.
didn't complete that discussion, Mike. So I want Commissioner Carter to look at that to see if he sees any things. I am not competent I am not competent to make an independent judgment that I trust on this. I trust John Carter, who does this, at the Planning Commission all the time. Mark Malcolm has demonstrated his intimate knowledge of the grid of streets in the Herndon area, and I would ask anyone else, please scrutinize it and alert us to any problems you see in the new grid of streets that Fairfax County DOT has proposed. So we will approve it contingent upon that review. Okay, we've made the specific votes we've done. We're continuing the review by Carter, by Malcolm, and others. But contingent on that review, are folks okay with going with the grid of streets here?
You're talking about 8C, right, John?
I'm talking about eight as a whole here. So we've gotten rid of.
We've done A and B.
That's correct.
We're on C. C is the only one that has not been.
No, well, no, that's not the only one, Tammy. So
move it back up, please.
All of the yellow lines that you see in the text of the plan, all the yellow lines have been added by Fairfax County DOT.
Okay. Lisa, can you move that back up so we can see 8? Okay, thank you. Thank you
John,
so much.
and this is Mike again, just to make sure, we're going to revise the map based on what you all have said to us tonight. The removal of the golf course road, we're going to show it to you again, so you won't be here last time. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's
Thank
wait
you.
then.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we're okay on 9. Number 10. We've said okay on 9, with the possible proviso that we add a note that Jennifer suggested. Though Mike has indicated possible problems with that. Just a second.
Whatever you guys decide on that, I'm fine with. I get your point, Mike, that sometimes it has been a map issue versus a chart. I get it.
Okay, number 10. This has to do with specific TDM goals. The task force majority of the task force voted to eliminate specific TDM goals. Fairfax County DOT wants to put it back in so that they can hold developers to some quantified standard. We've had long discussions of this before. Can we vote on this? Or does anybody need more discussion?
Yes, doesn't this overlap with parking reimagined?
Not the TDM goals.
It doesn't, but in some ways it will, because parking is going to be reduced, which is going to reduce some of the trips. But so in some ways, yes. But the issue here that we voted against including this was these are just too aggressive goals. That was the basic simple version of this, and it still should not be included.
Yeah. I disagreed with the majority of the task force on this, but I was on the losing side, so I will not further argue the point.
Can FCDOT have a point on this? Because this is
Absolutely.
one of our big contentious. John?
Sure, thanks. So I'll be quick. I know you have voted on it before. I think the point we just wanted to make was that from folks that work in our TDM program, they have seen it being a proven success in Fairfax County and Reston specifically. So we have found it to be a useful tool in the toolbox. to reduce vehicle trips on the roadways. Taking the language out, we think would make the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors' job more challenging because it wouldn't have the policy backing as it does now in the plan to encourage that strong TDM trip reduction for Reston. So that's why we like to keep it.
Any other questions or comments before we vote?
Just point out the goals we think are appropriate. We have seen these be achieved elsewhere in the county. So even as areas that are 3/4 of a mile away from a metro station. So we believe that the goals are appropriate as they are in the plan.
Mike, or whoever that was, said you, John. I just really disagree. We talked about this a lot. We're going back to the same things we talked about before when we voted on this.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, those, even though, so whereas I was able to take out the LOS discussion because it was simply in text, continuous text form on page 4 of the clean copy, I could not do that with the discussion of LOS because LOS was put in a tabular form, and to put the tabular to put the table into a context would completely jumble the layout of the table. So I left it in, but I highlighted it in yellow. So the point is, on page 14 of the clean copy, the yellow would all go out. If the task force votes to retain its rejection of the inclusion of the specific TDM goals.
Could we see that on the shared screen? I'm not seeing that.
Okay.
The yellow.
Yeah. Lisa, can you put the clean copy up?
And what page, John?
It's page 14. Page 14.
But that's not a issue. It's just the presentation of how you put it in the plan. You couldn't get it out of there. That's all that is.
And Lisa, it was up, but it went away.
Yeah, we're just
I'm
voting to
sorry,
reaffirm,
I
right?
can't see what you guys are seeing, so just a moment, I'll bring it back up.
Thank you.
And what page was it again?
Page 14. There it is.
Bring it up there.
Bring it down.
14. Okay, there you go.
14. There we are. So that whole yellowed section in the
Thank you.
would go out.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Hi,
This is
Tom.
Tom Bashad.
Tom Bashadny wants to say something.
I'm the director at FCDOT, and I'm sorry to jump in here, but if these goals are removed from the comprehensive plan, the county has no tools in trying to reduce vehicle trips. So the new development would not have any goals for trying to reduce the single occupant vehicle trips. So the end result of that puts more trips on the roadways in and around the TSA areas. So just wanted to make sure that there was an understanding of what the result of removing these goals from the comp plan would be.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're too high.
I didn't hear that, Gary.
We can't understand you, Gary.
Oh, really? Can I hear me now?
Yes, but keep your head up so you're not.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you, Tammy. So, Tom, they're just too high. I mean, I have experienced.
They're not.
Well,
They're not too high. We've been able to achieve these in other parts of the county. We do not think that they are unachievable, nor has the development community told us they're unachievable.
Can I make a statement, Tom? we just had a P&Z meeting with Comstock, and they are the one of the bigwigs in Comstock told us that, I don't know why I'm getting feedback, but anyway, that everybody there has to have a car to get to a grocery store because Wegmans prohibits any grocery store from locating in Wheelie. And it's too far to walk, so get used to it. Everybody in residential in Wheatley area will have to have a car. I almost fell on the floor. So this is why I think we're alert to this.
Right.
You know, the tenor is changing, and that came from a Comstock executive, that comment. So we were going, what? You are a TSA, you know, you are a TOD, you are the closest, you're touching the metro station, and you're telling us that your residents have to have a car. So the grocery shop.
Ms. Petrine, I think that just reinforces the need to have strong language in the comp plan to say that there should be reductions on single occupant trips.
Well, you can have that too, but what do the people do that live there?
If they're on top of a metro station, they should definitely be able to achieve these goals.
So Tom, can you address the question in the chat? What type of accountability is occurring when they don't achieve the goals? Because I think that's part of the problem we're having too.
The other thing, Tom, is if you're in the Reston town center, you're not going to not go get in a car to go to some grocery store. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. It is. They're not walking from town center to the grocery store.
Okay, well, just to be clear, these are peak period trips. These aren't trips to the grocery store.
I understand that.
These are peak period trips. So most of these are trips to work or
If
from
the
work,
trips
to and from work.
If the trips to work, even with the Wiley Metro Station and free transportation, they're getting in the car because they need to get to wherever, DC, and it's the only way to do it. That's the reality of it. I live it. I've lived it. So I've been here for 8 years and watched it. And
well, I would just say
you were further impacting the negative things that have happened here for sure.
Okay.
Tom, could you answer Michelle's question about what happens if they don't meet it?
so. So typically, what we have is we have a remedy fund that the developer sets aside, so that if they aren't meeting their goals, there is money that's set aside at rezoning to be able to access if they need to implement additional strategies. And we have been doing spot checking to make sure they do have to report annually how they're doing. The county does spot check those, and so far, everybody has been able to meet the goals that they have set out. So this is not too difficult. And without these, there's no restriction on the single occupant trips, particularly the peak period trips, which is when traffic is the worst, into and out of the TSA area. So, I mean, I just want to make sure that the task force was aware of what the implications of removing these would be.
Well, can you explain the implications of if TDM as a whole is working, and has there been an analysis of the entire program, not just some individual spot checking? Jennifer's question in the chat was, determining the long-term benefits of the program. And I mean, it's great that you might get some money, but it doesn't really help the residents who are now dealing with more traffic and not achieving the goals of the TSA.
But without these, you have no tools to achieve any goals in the TSA. So in Tysons, which we've been monitoring for 10 years now, we have seen the number of single occupant vehicle trips reduced, and the developers are meeting their goals in Tysons. Reston, we haven't been monitoring quite as long, but we are starting to see the reduction in the percentage of trips that is taken by single occupant vehicles. When you have additional rail stations open, you will have tools for more people to travel single occupant vehicles. But again, if you don't have this encouragement for the development community, they're going to build the parking, they're going to build a parking space for everybody. And they're not going to do anything to encourage people to take transit or to walk or bike. And you will get more trips into and out of the TSA and single occupant vehicles. If you don't agree with the percentages could change. I'm not advocating for that, but removing all of this just sends everything in the complete opposite direction of what you all have been saying that you're concerned about, which is single occupant trips in the TSA area.
Well,
Okay. I think we've all made our arguments. I think we need to vote. We only have 15 minutes left. So I'm going to call the question here. Those who support the removal of these specific TDM goals as indicated in the yellow highlighted area, let's clear all hands. And those who favor the removal of those specific TDM goals, please indicate by voting yes.
Okay, in favor of removing the TDM goals, vote in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 6 in
Okay.
favor of removing.
Those who oppose removing the specific TDM goals, please let's clear all hands. So those who oppose removing the specific TDM goals from the text, please raise your hands.
John, would it also be fair to say those who favor keeping the TDM goals, raise their hand?
Yes. Those who favor keeping the TDM goals. Let's put it, no double negatives unnecessarily. Okay.
Right. Okay. All in favor of keeping the TDM goals here, raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 7.
And Christopher Daniel voted in the chat that he's in favor of restoring them.
Okay, well, thanks. Yeah, at this point, it still passes.
But so if Chris voted in chat, we should probably note that.
Okay, it would either be 7 or 8
Okay.
in favor. Okay. And then
Those
abstentions, John?
abstaining, please clear your hands. Those abstaining.
Okay, abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ooh, hold on, it's changing. Three abstentions.
Okay, moving on to number 11. So Fairfax County DOT did not accept the task force's recommendation for a new minimum parking rate requirement for residential developments in the TSAs that were more than a half mile from the metro station, because some are being proposed that would be 3/4 of a mile from the metro station. We agreed to accept that decision, but amended the language in this way. So whereas previously it said that in determining the required residential parking, they should consider the number of bedrooms per unit. What we added was this: especially in the TSAs, parking plans for residential uses should consider not only the number of bedrooms, but also the walkable distance to transit stops and stations when establishing the amount of parking to supply. So that means that for those residential developments that are, for example, 3/4 of a mile away, they should have more parking than those within the TOD, that is within a half mile of the metro station. So I think John and Mike and I agreed on that language. Obviously, I recommend that. I think Gary and Bill are okay with that. Gary is on the new parking study task force and is working on that. But this is what we need for our comp plan. So we got no traction in trying to get a minimum parking rate for residential beyond a half mile. We got no traction on that from Fairfax County DOT, but we did get this acceptance of this addition. So those in favor of the new language, let's clear hands. Those in favor of the new language, please indicate by saying yes.
All in favor of this new language, please raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 10 in favor.
Okay, those opposed, let's clear hands. Those opposed, please raise your electronic hand.
Okay, opposed, raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see 0 opposed.
Okay, abstentions?
Okay, abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. I mean, there had to be one.
Okay.
And
thank
I
you.
see actually 3 abstentions.
3 abstentions, okay. And finally, this is just a note. I've noted here that Fairfax County DOT had initially recommended removing the whole placemaking section. We agreed together, Fairfax County DOT and our draft transportation drafting committee agreed that the general guidelines should be retained because placemaking has such a functional role to play in a multimodal transportation system because it makes it understandable and attractive. So with John Carter's strong consent, we've restored the general guidelines in that section, but put all the specific recommendations on the table. So I would ask that by unanimous consent, we accept that change. Is there any opposition to that?
But John, if I can interrupt for a second.
Sure.
You know, we really want to get through economic development tonight, and my partner in economic development has to leave at 7. So I sure hope there's some way we could, you know, finish this up and go on to that, because I don't think it'll take that long.
Okay.
For us to leave.
And I'm sorry it took so long here, guys. Having handled these 12 issues, are folks okay? Is there, dare I ask, is there unanimous consent to accept the new chapter with the changes that we've decided on tonight?
John, I would ask that the task force be open to some potential additions from an equity standpoint, because we are not in agreement on the equity chapter. Many of the chapters may have some addition on equity language until we get to a good place.
No problem. We've tried to build equity in key
Right.
places here, but if there are more needed, I think that is within the realm, the spirit of approving it now. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we need to go to a vote on this?
Probably.
So, okay, so basically endorsement of this chapter with the understanding some additional tweaks may be coming with equity that'll come back to the task force.
Supervisor Elkhorn, Shane Murphy.
Hey, Shane.
One comment. I think
Sure.
several of us didn't understand item 1 and what the impact was of that to the plan, all the way back to that robust discussion we had. And I know we're getting short on time, but I wonder if Tom Bashadny is still around. Maybe he can explain to us what we did.
I think let me just say, in the interest of time, we have voted on this so often, and it was such a lopsided vote this time. Even though I support retention of LOS, the vote was 10-4, and John King and Mike Garcia gave, I think, very good explanations of the importance of it. So I don't see taking it up again, respectfully.
Okay, so let's just vote then on endorsement of the transportation chapter. So let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the endorsement as discussed tonight, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I see 7 hands up. Okay, let's go to opposed. All those in favor of, I'm sorry, all those opposed
Pardon
to-
me, Walter, I made a
Yes.
mistake. I had my hand up. It should not have been up. I'm very
Okay.
sorry.
No problem. So 6 in favor. All right, so all opposed to endorsing this transportation chapter as discussed tonight, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 4 opposed. Let's go to abstentions. All abstainers of this transportation chapter, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see 5 abstentions. So it passes. All right. Thank you. This we've gotten through this. It's 6:59. Gary, you have 1 minute. No, just kidding.
Charles, is there any way you could, it's hard to do this without him. Can you stay on for just a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you,
Sorry
Charles.
I'm going to try and
John Mooney, thank you. But
Thank you,
keep going,
John.
Gary.
But and I'll quickly say, John's done a fabulous job of getting through this, and he's worked so hard. It's unbelievable. And so county staff relationship is fantastic on transportation. So thanks to them. We really appreciate it. So economic development is a new chapter, as you know. By the way, it coincides with the county economic development policy plan. It also coincides with One Fairfax on equity, and we made sure we covered equity so strongly in here. You'll see it in just lots of places. So I'll have to so much compliment Chris Caperton, who is our coordinator with us for this. He was just excellent working through it. It is essentially the same chapter as you saw before that passed unanimously last year. And its changes are pretty simple. We broke down at Chris's suggestion the recommendations. There were 18 recommendations. They're the same recommendations, they're 18. We broke them into the ones that are positively related to the to the land use, individual land use decisions, and those that are relying on other county agencies. They're relying on Reston. They could be affecting a individual land use decision because they're not precluded from doing that. And that's the only substantive change, other than we did go to shoulds rather than wills pending the county attorney decision, which I think, as I understand it, is coming very soon. So what you'll see here is Chris Caperton. This went unanimous. It also had lots of compliments on the way it was written, not only by the task force as we passed it unanimously, but by individuals that talked to me about it after it had passed to the county late last summer. So it is organized in a way, as you see, that's been the same all along, in a way that I think not only deals with, you know, what we're talking about here, but also expanding on the policies of you know, recommendations, where we're really going. If you're thinking about legislation on the Hill, we have a law, then we have committee language supporting it that tells you a lot about it. And this does that. It does it within a limited number of pages. And I guess I'm excited about it. I think it's the first one that's going to be in an area plan. And it sings to us being, you know, a place to be for doing business in a way that is really supportive of doing the right things for business, including very, particularly in an equity perspective. So as I said, it passed last time with, you know, unanimous vote. And I'm open to questions, but obviously, and Charles is, in addition to me and John Carter, helped on this, and of course, Chris Caperton, who did a great job of editing. I thought this was great, but Chris did a great job, and we had an additional help from that didn't change anything, but just helped from a staff person, a person from the Economic Development Authority. So with that, I'm actually ready to propose we go forward.
That sounds good. Any questions, or anyone else want to make any quick comments? Well, this is great. It looks really nice too, Gary, which is good.
We can thank John Carter for helping make it look nice too. And it's really, John was involved in this as well, and he made it look nice. We all rely on John so much for not only his expertise and help, but help in things like this. So, and
wonderful.
it's exactly the same as it did when we passed it last summer.
So, so this is not new. So with that in mind, does anyone have any objections to the economic development chapter as presented? Okay, then Gary, by consensus, let's say that is endorsed. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Gary.
Great job.
Thank you. And Charles can leave.
Thank you, Charles.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, then let's, all right, we're over time. Gary, great job. So I did just want very quickly to go through the last part of the agenda. We still have a number of meetings going on between chapter leads, others active in those chapters, and staff. Those meetings are, I would say some are a little painful, but I'd say they're all going very well. Very constructive discussions going forward and fleshing out not only language, but also some of the issues. I think I'm finding it very helpful. For the next meeting, we have a June 21st task force meeting. Let me throw out, my understanding is, and anyone can tell me that I'm wrong, that we'll likely have 3 chapters ready at next week's task force meeting: affordable housing, parks and open space, and public art. Does that sound about right? Anybody involved in those? Okay.
That's correct for housing.
Okay.
We don't have our next meeting on Parks and Open Space until Friday, and we were pretty far apart last meeting, so that's kind of
Maybe not.
iffy, but maybe,
All right.
I mean, if
All
we get
right. Maybe
lucky.
not parks and open space.
Public art is the go.
All right, Tammy, thank you. Are there any other chapters that might be ready for next Monday or look like they might be? Okay, all right, well, let's definitely go with those 2 and
What are they? Affordable housing and
public art.
okay.
And if we can get parks and open space, if lightning strikes, that'll be great.
What about public facilities?
Yeah, I was going to ask about public facilities. David, is that close?
No, Charles Colby, and he
Oh,
left
it's
for.
Charles, that's right, I'm sorry.
I think it's worth reaching out to him and asking, because I thought it was close.
Yeah, I thought it was too. Yeah.
This is Chris Caperton. It is close, and I'll reach out to Charles tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All righty. Well, very good. So we are not going to finish, I think, without adding at least a couple more meetings of this task force, but we are moving through the last bit here. What it's probably also going to mean is that our public outreach is probably not going to start until after August. I just don't see how we're going to get through the whole task force recommendation before July. But let's keep moving forward and we can talk more about that. So, good point. The next meeting is actually a Tuesday because Monday is a holiday for some of us, and that means it's the 21st of June. We will talk more next week about schedule. In the meantime, if folks have any issues regarding process or schedule, let us know here in the Hunter Mill office. Any final comments, questions before we wrap up today?
Thank you to everybody who worked so hard on those chapters. That is incredibly.
Absolutely.
And John Mooney, if you're good, Gary will let you wear his lucky jammies.
I don't know what that is, Tammy, but I'm going to let it go.
Yeah.
People to know that I may not be able to do a 27th meeting or 28th meeting at all. Medical stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk scheduled next week on Tuesday. But thank you, everybody. And I second what Tammy said about all the work everybody's been doing. This is really coming together and getting close to moving ahead. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks for all the great work. Oh, thank you, John Mooney. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job, John, Bill, and Gary on transportation.
Oh my gosh, you guys are just
And our Fairfax County DOT partners.
Yes.